This is Palmer Luckey.
I'm the guy with the pitch deck that says I want to make tens of billions of dollars selling arms.
Luckey is the founder of the defense tech startup Anduril, and he is making a fortune off of autonomous murderbots. Depending on who you ask, he's either preparing the American military to take the lead in a new era of AI-powered warfare.
There's no moral high ground in saying, I refuse to use AI.
Or he's hell-bent on radically lowering the cost of Armageddon.
For taxpayer money, don't trust me.
What makes Luckey my favorite producer of killer autonomous drones is that he doesn't hide his excitement about his product.
I love killer robots.
Most of the rest of the $500 billion drone industry has carefully curated its PR and advertising to make us think that drones are mostly harmless technology that makes land surveys more efficient and upgrades any real estate listing, and can be tailor-made to make noisy firework displays obsolete. Take, for example, this spectacle in a Chinese city in Shenzhen, where a massive coordinated light show is made from thousands of drones for an impossible pattern in the sky. I want you to hold this image in your mind and then change just one small thing. Instead of lights, now every drone is carrying a single grenade and targeting software optimized for the highest possible body count. Analogs of this situation already exist along the 750-mile Ukrainian front line, a death zone that resembles the trench warfare of World War I. Drones with autonomous AI targeting software designed to kill everyone in a designated region. But unlike in the Great War, in Ukraine every kill exists in two places: on the battlefield and in an endless stream of videos on Reddit forums and in Telegram channels run by the propaganda wings of state agencies. But it's not only in Ukraine. A strikingly similar situation is coming to schoolrooms across America, where anti-personnel drone technology is being deployed preemptively against school shooters. This isn't the sci-fi future. This is happening right now. In this video, I'm going to tell you who is getting rich off of ushering all of this into existence and what it actually means for you and me. I need you to take a look at this video. This is real footage for how the drone war is playing out right now in Ukraine. That prompt on the bottom of the screen that says "Land Now" signals the end of this particular soldier's life as automated targeting software finishes the job. And whatever you feel about who is right and who is wrong in this particular conflict, it's hard to watch this and not feel something about the senselessness of the way our increasingly automated militaries extinguish human life. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. Right now, most drones that carry lethal munitions still have humans in the loop, and documented cases of fully autonomous drones carrying out strikes all by themselves are limited. But the terrifying part is that those cases are increasing in frequency. There are a lot of reasons for this, but the biggest one is that right now the software is optimized only to kill everyone in one area and cannot fully select allies from enemies. But that's changing at the pace of artificial intelligence, which is why this video is so important. In 1942, the science fiction writer Isaac Asimov could already envision Terminator killer robots wiping out humanity. So he proposed 3 common-sense laws of robotics that would have to be the core principles in the development of AI if we, as a human species, ever wanted a chance to survive. And the rules, they were simple. 1, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. 2, a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. They're pretty straightforward, and Asimov wanted this to be the base operating system of every robot, baked into the very core of all AI. Unfortunately, in the real world, ethics don't trump capitalism. Palmer Luckey's company makes and sells weapons, and his first investor was none other than Peter Thiel, whose company Palantir does surveillance and analysis that often decides how those strikes are carried out. And since its founding, Anduril has raised at least $6.9 billion from investors. Of course, they are not the only billionaires profiting on drone-delivered death machines.
What's going to happen is that the autonomy aspects will make automatic killing machines in war much more likely.
That's Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, who instituted the company's motto, "Don't be evil," before eventually abandoning that ethos and founding a drone warfare enterprise constructed like a Russian Matryoshka doll in a set of different shell companies. According to my research, its various names and corporate aliases include Swiftbeat, and White Stork, and Aurelian Industries, and Maripos, and Voloya Robotics, all meant to obscure a single kamikaze and interceptor drone operation that supplies the warfront in Ukraine.
And I'm not talking about the robots that you see in movies. I'm talking about the equivalent of drones, whether they're sea drones or air drones, that are highly automated with highly automated kill chains.
Some of those automated kill chains are already visible in Palestine.
Your AI and your technology from Palantir kills Palestinians!
Mostly terrorists, that's true.
Regardless of your feelings about the war in Palestine, we need to all intrinsically understand that who qualifies as a terrorist and who doesn't depends on your perspective.
I'm personally sanctioned by China as a radical separatist terrorist on account of arming Taiwan.
And what really makes me uncomfortable is that this technology is coming online when leaders of the American military and in militaries around the world are expressly moving away from ethical oversight. Here's Pete Hegseth.
We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters.
And that monetization of lethality seems to benefit the families of the people in power. Take, for instance, Donald Trump's son, Eric, who is the chief strategy officer for a company that is already building humanoid killer robots called Foundation Future Industries.
Foundation has been granted a $24 million Pentagon contract to test Phantom with human Marines.
You bring in AI autonomy, it's going to change industry, it's going to change military application, it's going to change hospitality. The uses are unlimited, and I think it's a very beautiful thing.
The founders of these companies present themselves as high-minded, pragmatic intellectuals on the war front. But the battle that they are saying is inevitable also is the one that they are the direct architects for. They're creating the problem and then selling the solution. It's the same logic that drug dealers use to defend selling narcotics to kids, because if they don't sell them, someone else will. Except in this case, it's even worse than narcotics. According to statistics collected by the CDC, between 1999 and 2023, the opioid epidemic in the United States averaged 33,000 deaths per year. In the last 4 years, conservative estimates suggest that the war in Ukraine kills 156,000 people per year with an additional 1.5 million casualties. 80% of those deaths were delivered via drone strikes. It's more profitable too. The Department of Defense, now the Department of War, has allocated $70 billion to overhaul its various American drone programs in 2026, whereas the largest opioid profiteers, the Sackler family, only made it $10 billion in profit over more than 2 decades. But abstract numbers don't really do justice to what a drone war looks like on the ground. So it's important to describe what is happening right now in Ukraine, because it's the template for all future warfare from here on out. Almost no reporters actually visit the front lines, because just about anyone who goes there is dead within a few days. However, an investigative team from Reuters recently collected data from a few people who managed to survive the so-called kill zone.
Чи нора, чи гробниця, блядь. Хрен його знає, що там прилетить.
This is an underground shelter, dug by hand by 3 Ukrainian soldiers in an area known as the kill zone, the most dangerous part of the front line in Ukraine. Both these men were later killed while defending this position. These videos were filmed by the third man, Serhiy Krenitsky.
It's a hopeless situation. Anyone caught outdoors will be picked up on thermal imaging or in aerial video or infrared detectors and targeted by lethal kamikaze drones within minutes. Merely being seen all but inevitably results in a gruesome death. The few who do survive spend almost all of their time in bunkers and can only venture outside at dusk and dawn and during intense rainstorms when the weather interferes with drone targeting systems, at least current versions of drone targeting systems. One soldier they interviewed spent 300 days in a bunker, mostly unable to leave. And still, from that position, he killed 28 Russian soldiers.
The outpost was also under constant attack from drones. One of their shelters was destroyed by a drone.
Розгромили, розбомбили, блядь. Не побачив дрона. Всім привіт. Лише одна блядінка прилетіла. Це, блядь, протитанкова хуйня, протитанкова міна, блядь, а вони по людях кидають. От така хернюшка її принесла, блядь.
The armaments are nothing short of stunning. There are long-range and short-range drones, kamikaze drones armed with explosives, and loitering drones that can scan an area and activate when their AI detects a target.
A fixed-wing Ukrainian Hornet drone has been loitering. It finds the tanker using its infrared camera and swiftly dives towards it. And in just a few seconds, there is a fireball on a road the Russian command believed was beyond Ukraine's reach.
There is nothing about that tech that requires them to loiter from the air, of course, or to target only tanker trucks. The software can be set to identify anything that the programmer wants. Groups of 2 or 3 drones often coordinate their attacks, providing different roles. And soon, both sides plan to deploy swarms of drones that act in concert to make defense all but impossible. Humans are just not equipped to survive in environments like this, a fact that has increasingly moved the battlefield towards drone-on-drone combat. In an interview with Neuma, Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, said that the direction of warfare has decidedly settled first on drone warfare, robots fighting each other, before any human is ever involved, writing that in future human wars, the humans will go in last, not first. Today, the basic order is humans first, with the technology supporting them. In the next war, that principle inverts. You send the robots in first to absorb fire and clear the battlefield, which is why drone manufacturers like Lucky's Anduril have also pivoted to selling counter-drone technology, which includes drones designed to jam radio signals, use lasers to disable navigation software, to interceptor drones that shoot other drones out of the sky. Read in a certain way, this almost seems like a more humane kind of combat. If wars ultimately boil down to the money that each side commits to the effort, a truth since the beginning of modern warfare going back at least to the American Civil War, then an all-robot war could, at least in theory, mean that the only casualties would be other machines. In which case, drone wars are simply a product meeting a need involving very limited human fallout.
I've always said that we need to transition from being the world police to being the world gun store.
Do we want to be the world's gun store?
I think so. I think we have to.
Unfortunately, this line of reasoning is simply wrong. In a future where drones and other autonomous killing machines do the brunt of the fighting, it doesn't mean that humans won't be the targets. It means that their own fighting capabilities are entirely obsolete. The only role that humans can actually fill in the future of drone warfare is to be casualties. Think about it in terms of video games. No human can actually beat a top-of-the-line computer in chess. AIs win every FPS video arcade game. They are still insurmountably dominant on the battlefield, and the entire industry is still in its technological infancy. And what happens when this death tech advances at the same exponential rate as AI in general? To put it another way, what is happening in Ukraine is almost definitely the least effective drone conflict that the world will ever see going forward. Like any good capitalist, Lucky wants to apply market economics to warfare. He wants America to be the world's gun store.
You cannot necessarily pretend that you're the only store in town, because we aren't anymore. Countries have options in China, they have options in Russia, and we need to recognize that and not pretend like we're the only store in the entire world that these guys can buy from.
More gun stores, more competition, lower prices, lower barriers to entry. It all points in one direction, an ever-plummeting price for drone Armageddon. Because while Palmer and Schmidt get a tremendous amount of funding from the American military, economic competition means that low-cost lethal drone manufacturers are popping up all over the world. Iran's $15,000 Shahed drones have effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
This is an Iranian-made Shahed drone. These suicide drones are cheap, precise, and hard to shoot down.
Not because they are sinking ships, but simply because the threat of them blowing up ships make ensuring shipping too expensive. Meanwhile, Houthi militants have cut off the bottom of the Red Sea to shipping almost entirely. Compared to other military technology, from tanks to battleships to stealth fighters, drones are insanely cheap, while in many cases, they're also more effective. A decade ago, the terrorist group ISIS was effectively modifying consumer quadcopter drones made by the Chinese tech company DJI to launch grenades on their victims. And since then, the DIY tech has only gotten more accessible. Installing new AI-enabled targeting programs into those kinds of devices, it's really just a software problem, meaning that in the next few years, there aren't going to be many roadblocks for bad actors deploying their own drone swarms and automated kill chains.
We make more money when we make our products cheaper.
A recent article in AI Frontiers by Felix Chusat exposed exactly how dire this could look with existing technology alone. Imagine, if you will, a moderately funded terrorist state getting a hold of Ninox 40 tactical drones. These are 250-gram disposable drones with a 35-minute life cycle that pack a single high-explosive grenade.
A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city.
AI Frontiers calculated how many of these autonomous death machines could fit into standard cargo payloads. A box truck could carry 40,000. A shipping container, 82,000. You could even just throw them out of a cabin of a single-engine plane and still drop more than 10,000 anywhere you wanted. Every drone could be set on an individual mission to target and kill the first civilian it sees. But at scale, the cost could come down to maybe $25 a drone. What would that do to a city? Alternatively, what happens if terrorists deploy loitering drones on rooftops that lie in stasis for a remote activation signal or until a particular moment in time and then just launch their mission? In 2002, a single DC sniper and his spotter killed 10 people in public areas around the nation's capital over a 23-day period.
The sniper shootings have been in Maryland, DC, and Virginia.
The entire metropolitan region shut down as people were terrified to leave their homes and get gas or shop at Target.
He was in control. He decided who lived, who died.
Today, a single individual could pull off a strikingly similar attack using drones with almost no risk to themselves for a few $1,000s. Except with loitering drones, you would never actually know if you were safe, even if they caught the attacker. Would you go outside if you knew that someone had launched a lethal autonomous drone off at a Walmart 15 miles from your house? Well, I wouldn't. And that's all it takes to shut down a city. And you may have not realized it yet, but that world, well, it's already here. The AI drone battlefront is already on American shores. Since the Columbine school shootings in 1999, we have all become sadly familiar with how vulnerable our schools are to lone gunmen. More than 800 children have been killed or wounded in the last 3 years alone, in a combined total of 1,000 separate incidents. And we can all agree that something has to be done about that problem. So enter in the venture capital-backed company called Campus Guardian Angel, which sends in drones flown by human pilots designed to neutralize school shooters in seconds with pepper spray, dazzling lights, breaching windows, and ramming shooters at upwards of 60 miles an hour. Well, that's the first step to their deployment, but we are just one policy change away from these same units carrying lethal payloads to take out active shooters. Pretty much everyone can agree that responding to school shooters quickly is potentially useful. It's just too bad that what begins in a specific limited use case almost always expands to others in short order. And if terrorists can manage to create lethal drone tech in the Iraqi desert, how hard can it be to construct one in a basement in Phoenix, Arizona, or Brooklyn, New York, or Miami, Florida? It's hard to predict exactly how the AI drone future will play out. We can't, of course, imagine anything between a perfectly ethical AI Murderbot utopia where only the bad guys ever are targets, all the way to a Skynet humans versus super intelligent AI apocalypse. which is where the question of ethics and liability becomes so important. Here's Palmer Luckey again.
Who is liable when a human isn't in the loop?
The key is that a person is responsible for the deployment of those systems. The existence of an algorithm cannot replace human responsibility for deploying that weapon system. And it has to be a person who deeply understands the limitations of that system and who's going to be held to account when it goes wrong, but war is hell, and it's not going to be perfect.
Pay close attention to this part and remember that Luckey is literally an arms dealer.
There will be people who are killed by AI who should not have been killed. That is a certainty if artificial intelligence becomes a core part of the way that we fight wars. We need to make sure that people remain accountable for that, because that's the only thing that'll drive us to better solutions.
In other words, this is just a rehash of the NRA's stance on guns. Drones don't kill people, people kill people, which is pretty self-serving for a company that doesn't want to have any liability for how its weapons are being used, or who designs the algorithms that decide who will live and who will die. The situation, as Luckey and Schmidt see it, is that while they may have created everything that goes into a kill zone, only the person who actually uses the weapon should ever be held responsible for it. Remember, they're just the ones getting rich off drones, not the ones using them. So where does the buck really stop? Other than the person who actually presses the button on deploying a drone, surely someone must be responsible for the impending drone apocalypse. And Luckey, well, he's addressed this question before too.
You have to have trust in the system. You have to believe that democracy works, and you have to believe that the right way to control these is on the policy side.
Which in a way goes right back to the 3 laws that Asimov posited 8 decades ago. If you are going to create something that has the potential to become an automated killing machine, then you need to be sure that you have the proper regulations in place. You need to create a system that is trustworthy, or the battlefront will control the outcome. And the one thing that we can be sure of since the mass deployment of artificial intelligence is that ethics is not really everyone's primary concern. The handful of billionaires behind the top AI systems are in an arms race with one another to be the first to build superintelligence. From my perspective, China and the United States seem to be throwing out what tepid standards they have had to limit AI development as they compete to be the first. Anthropic lost its contract with the Department of Defense because of its ethical stance against allowing autonomous weapons to select and engage targets without human intervention. So ChatGPT quickly stepped in to pick up that mantle. I mean, at the end of the day, governments are making decisions that will chart the course for how the future will unfold. We're being asked to trust governments with our lives in the same way that we trust them to be stewards of the political system that put them into power in the first place. Which is depressing because in China, Xi Jinping abolished the term limits that were supposed to constrain him and installed himself for a 3rd term with no end in sight. In Russia, Vladimir Putin rewrote the constitution so he can rule until 2036. And in the United States, the president muses about a 3rd term that the Constitution specifically forbids.
My intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States.
And tells his supporters that they won't need to vote again.
4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore.
All of this is happening at the exact moment that we are being asked to trust the system with the most dangerous weapons ever built. Machines that pick their own targets, that kill without a human finger on the trigger, that makes killing cheaper, faster, and easier than any other time in human history. And the broader world, well, it's aware of the problem.
The current laws of war, they were written for humans and not for machines.
They even tried to do something about it a few years ago. The United Nations set a deadline, it was 2026, to write the first binding treaty on autonomous weapons.
Whatever the weapon systems that you're using, the number 1 rule is to protect civilians, non-combatants.
One rule at its heart was that a human being must stay in the loop on the decision to take a life every single time. 166 nations voted to put it on the table, but 3 voted no. The deadline came last year, and that deadline passed. No treaty, no negotiations, nothing. Because the handful of powers actually building these weapons, the United States chief among them, did not want to be told no. The current global order, it's failing in real time. Here's the good news, and maybe it's the only good news in this whole video. Nothing about this is truly decided yet. The treaty, it's not dead, it's just stalled, waiting for enough public pressure to force it back onto the table. And while we can't immediately do anything about DIY terrorist shops making their small arms, we can have an impact in our own countries. The line the whole fight comes down to is simple enough that you could make it a bumper sticker. Keep a human in the loop. Asimov was right. A machine should never be allowed to decide on its own to end a human life. That's a law that we can still write. But these laws, they're not going to come from the top down, not from the men busily dismantling their own term limits. They have to come from the bottom up, from the people who are loud enough that ignoring them costs an election. And don't think that this is impossible. Treaties after World War I on deploying nerve agents and mustard gas on the front lines of that battlefront actually kept gas mostly out of the battlefront in World War II. So right now is our opportunity to be loud. Ask your representatives one question and don't let them dodge it. Do you support a binding human control standard for autonomous weapons? Yes or no? And then follow the money, follow the contracts, follow the valuations, and follow the billionaires that I've mentioned in this video. Then ask who is profiting from making sure that the answer stays no. And remember, support the people who've been fighting this since before it was a headline. One place that you should definitely check out is the Center for AI Safety. You can find it at safety.ai on the web. There's a link down in the description. They helped me dig into this topic and have tons of resources and research papers and even career opportunities aimed at tackling existential risks. All of that, it's down in the description, so go check it out. Because the drone war isn't coming, it's already here. The only thing still undecided is whether we write the rules or whether, like everything else in that kill zone, the battlefield writes them for us. That's the part that's still up to us. From Foxtopus Inc. in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.